Prior to counting Sefirah HaOmer, many have the custom to recite a brief paragraph of L'Shem Yichud and Hini Nimuchad and Mezuman, a paragraph which briefly describes what's behind the mitzvah, the purpose behind it, and some of the intent behind it. Now, this seems like a beautiful thing to do, puts in the proper frame of mind, and it could be a wonderful thing. So why don't we all do it? Maybe many of us do have the minhag, but there are certainly some that do not. So why not? So there are really four possible reasons why one may not. The first opposition is a general opposition to L'Shem Yichud. And then Noda Yehuda writes that it could do more harm than good. For when we don't have any kavanos, when we don't explicitly mention any kavanos, we assume that a person has the right kavanos. There's no questions asked. However, when we go ahead and we verbalize it, we are setting ourselves up for potential failure if we improperly understand, if we don't recite the right kavanos, so that may be undoing the mitzvah. Whereas if we don't do anything, then certainly we would assume one did fulfill a mitzvah. So he's concerned that perhaps it can do more harm than good. That's true by any L'Shem Yichud, not just L'Shem Yichud, but by Sefirah, but there is the custom many have to say L'Shem Yichud by many different mitzvahs. However, this opposition of Noda Yehuda would apply to any time of saying L'Shem Yichud. A second concern that would apply any time to saying L'Shem Yichud is that in the line of L'Shem Yichud, we spell out the letters of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that is a prohibition. One would not spell out the letters of prohibition. So the way that to get around it is that there's any way, as long as we make an interruption, either we say the letter slightly differently or we make interruptions with adding words or letters in between the letters of God's name, there are ways around it. However, that is a concern that some express, that we may end up in that concern of spelling out God's name. Thirdly, and this applies specifically to the L'Shem Yichud of Sefirah, is that the wording of the Hini Nimuchad and Mezuman seems to not be true, because the Hini Nimuchad and Mezuman writes, the paragraph says Hini Nimuchad and Mezuman L'Kayim Mitzvahs Aseh Shel Sefirah HaOmer, that here I am prepared, I'm ready to fulfill the Mitzvahs Aseh Shel Sefirah HaOmer K'moshe Kosov B'Torah, as the pasuk says in the Torah, U'Mimachar Aseh Shabbos, and then it goes ahead and quotes the psukim. Now, this implies that even today there's a mitzvah in Torah. However, that's a big debate, and many Rishonim and many poskim, and in many ways we assume today that Sefirah may only be a mitzvah midrabanan. So to say that it's a mitzvah aseh min Torah could be problematic. Now, the response to that, Rosh Zalman Auerbach was not concerned with that at all, because he said that it's not so literal. Mitzvah aseh doesn't have to mean mitzvah aseh min Torah. It could mean mitzvah aseh midrabanan based off of these psukim. So it doesn't have to be so literal, and therefore he wasn't concerned with that at all. He said you can leave the wording as is. The final concern, the other approach within that is the approach of Rav Yosef or Moshe Sternbach, who both are concerned with the wording, but they suggest that to make a slight nuance. Instead of saying mitzvahs aseh, we can add in perhaps that it's a mitzvahs aseh shel devrayim, or we can add in, we can change, instead of saying k'moshe kosu b'Torah, as it's written in the Torah, we could say vik kosu b'Torah, and it is written in the Torah, not making the direct connection. So to slightly, in a nuanced way, change the wording so that it doesn't give the impression that it's mitzvah aseh min Torah, but even if it were mitzvah aseh midrabanan. And there are those that go so far as to say, if you don't change the word, that's a problem with Baal Tosef, because we're representing a mitzvah, possible mitzvah midrabanan as a mitzvah midoraisa, which the Rambam would actually say is a violation of Baal Tosef. Now, others say no, that it's a little bit extreme to say that this is actually representing it as a mitzvah aseh min Torah. As we mentioned, Shlomo Zalman is lenient with this, and Rav Yosef and Moshe Sternbach just changed the wording slightly. But certainly there are valid approaches, valid poskim, valid minhagim on each side. And if one does have it, then they should use it as an opportunity to get them in the zone and the mindset to properly count Sefirah HaOmer. And if one doesn't, there is a good reason for that as well. And one should certainly follow their minhag with firm basis. Have a great day.